How do you remain aligned amongst the demands of life and business? At the Alchemy of Alignment podcast, we love a big question, and it feels particularly poignant to be asking this as we're returning to spring, as the days are getting longer and the energy's shifting. How do we keep connected, aligned, and balanced amongst all of life's demands? Now, there's never an easy answer, but I'm really excited that I have not a stranger to me, but she might be to you. Melanie Pollard is joining us today. She's a franchise partner for Alchemy Virtual Assistants based in Warrington. And we're going to crack into this big, juicy topic of staying aligned and keeping balanced because life and business throws a lot of curveballs at us any day of the week. And Melanie's perfectly placed to discuss this with us today because not only is she incredibly passionate about women being supported in their well-being and through their menopause journeys, Melanie is also her career has been a PA within professional services industry. So on that practical level, she knows how to keep organized and proactive and building momentum. But obviously Mel has her virtual assistant business now as well, so there's lots of little synergies and threads that she's going to weave into this conversation with me today. So thank you for being here. And Mel, thank you for making space, because it's not easy, is it, finding time for this kind of stuff? But I'm really glad that you are here with us today, so welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Good. And I know you are an incredible human being. And I know there's lots of different aspects to you that I didn't really cover in depth in those details because you're also a mother. I know you have trustee responsibilities. There's lots of hats and things that you wear beyond your focus on your virtual assistant franchise with Alchemy. So come on then. How do we do it? How do we stay aligned when life, kids, work, everything, the universe is throwing craziness at us? How do we stay aligned?
Yeah, we're all really, really busy, aren't we? It's like, I know what it's like when you're a business owner and a mother, or you've got your family to look after, you've got responsibilities, and it can sometimes be incredibly overwhelming. So I like to think that there's sort of two different aspects to it. There's sort of practical things you can do, but there's also personal sort of mindset things you can do as well to help yourself. Um, and if you like, I can run through a few of them with you, the sort of things that I will do.
Yes, I
Um,
would love that if you're okay now, because I agree. Like, I agree with you. It's all things are multifaceted, but the practical and the kind of mental, it's that kind of capability and commitment kind of thing, capacity thing, isn't it?
mhm.
It's having those practical things and the mindset things all kind of connected. So yeah, what helps you?
What helps me? Okay, first of all, I pride myself on being incredibly organized practically. Obviously, being a virtual assistant, personal assistant, you have to be. But the little sort of hints and tips that I use, I'm happy to share. Things like, if something needs doing, do it straight away. That's a really good one because it's something I've adopted in the last sort of couple of years. It's like, I used to be a big procrastinator and I'd be like, I'll do that later. I'll remember that. I'll do it later. But honestly, especially the older you get, you find that you don't do that later, or it just goes out of your head completely and it doesn't get done. So a really good rule to adopt is, if something needs doing, do it straight away. Even if it's just writing yourself a little note in your phone app or something like that, or on your calendar, or on even post-it note if you're very old school kind of thing. But just write yourself a little note straight away to enable you to remember to do that, because especially women of a certain age, such as myself, we get the memory problems, the brain fog, etc. And so just having that little note is a really good way of doing it, and not forgetting these things. Also, another one that I like to do is I'm a big believer in time blocking in my calendar, because if it's in, I think I said to you last week, Susie, if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't get done. So putting things, I used to be old school and have a hard copy calendar, but these days I'm on Google Calendar on my phone all the time. Everything goes in there. I will put in half-hour slots just as things to do. I use Google Tasks, that shows up on my calendar, and again, it reminds me of things to do, because we always say we're going to remember things, and then you find that it's gone out of your head. A week later, you think, oh my goodness, I didn't do it. So just having that little reminder in there is absolutely key to me getting things done.
Yeah, I can totally. I love, we're straight in with the tips early on here, and I love what you've shared there, because it is. I'm the same as you. If it's not in the diary, it doesn't happen. And actually, I find those strategies. I use those strategies that you've just shared, and I find they help both with my practical organisation, but with my headspace as well, because you've actually got sight control, like it's planned. I love that do it now rule. I have a can I do it in under 10 minutes,
Yeah.
because it, like, for example, if I'm tackling my emails, I'm like, can I complete this in 10 minutes? If I can, I'll do it now. If not, I will schedule it, like, so it's gone, like, out of my inbox, because otherwise you just, well, if your inbox is anything like mine, otherwise it all just gets lost, and then you
Yeah.
forget, and then that adds to the kind of mental overwhelm as well as the practical.
Yeah, I think if you've got something in your head, it's just, it, like you say, it's taking up that
Mm.
headspace, and you can't let then. That's when you get to the point where you get overwhelmed, because there's just too much going in your head. You've, like I always say, too many tabs open, and you just feel that feeling of overwhelm. So the more you can get out of your head and either on the paper, in the diary, then it's out your head, and it gives you that headspace to think of anything else that comes along.
Do you have this approach with your life as well as your, as well as your business? Because I literally, every aspect of my life is in my diary.
Yeah.
My life, my children, my like personal stuff, everything goes into one diary.
Yes.
Do you do the same?
It absolutely, yeah. It's all in the one diary, and like you said at the beginning, I do have quite a few sort of responsibilities. I've got the business, I've got the kids, but I'm also a trustee for a charity. So, and obviously that has responsibilities that come with it. So absolutely everything has to go in the diary, whether it's whichever. Color coding, yeah, I'm that person.
Me too. Me
Yeah,
too.
color coding the diary for which part of my life it revolves around. Just because I've got three kids, they're all really busy. My daughter, especially, her social life is crazy, so I have to keep all of their appointments in my diary as well. And my two eldest as well, they've got their own color coded diary entries, because otherwise I think I would just lose track of what I was doing. But it helps, and as you say, if it's down on the page, it frees up that space in your head, and things don't become too overwhelming.
Definitely. And I'm a big advocate of time blocking, have been for many, many years. But for anyone that's listening that's going, what? What? What is that? It sounds great. How do I do it? How would you advise someone maybe considers to get starting with time blocking, or the do it now rule? Maybe that's a separate thing. We can come back to that.
Yeah. Well, the time blocking, it's just looking at all the jobs you've got to do and just allocating some of your day to do it, like giving yourself a timetable. When you were at school and you had your timetable and you'd follow your timetable, that's how I think of it. That's my timetable for the day. So I'll just put that time in to do that. I've recently decided to do Couch to 5K. I've been meaning to do it for years, and it's been one of the things that kept getting put off. And now someone's challenged me to do a charity thing in the autumn. So I was like, right, I need to get fit because else I'm not going to be able to do this charity thing in the autumn. So I have finally put time in my diary to do the Couch to 5K, and it will happen. And it did happen. I did my first run the other day. So yay.
That's incredible.
But
That's
yeah, if it's in
beautiful.
my diary, I'm more likely to do it. So I was like, right, the time is going in the diary to do it. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, it's basically giving yourself a timetable, so that you just follow the timetable as a day, and planning ahead. Like, if, for example, if it's easier, sit down on a Sunday and plan out your week ahead, put your blocks in for the following week, and then you've got your timetable for that week. And I know things will come up and things might have to shift around, but at least having that basic starting point, it really, really helps you to have a plan for that week.
I mean, there's two things there. Firstly, that's why actually the real value that a virtual assistant can bring in helping already overwhelmed, bogged down thing, actually getting it in the diary. That's something that on both levels, a virtual assistant can bring a lot of comfort and support with. But secondly, I think I confession time. I am a recovering kind of perfectionist, recovering people pleaser. Um, and I have always chronically overcommitted, and that's always been at my detriment. I've always gone, yes, I'll do that, I'll make it happen, and I do, but I leave myself tired, burnt out, exhausted, stressed in the process. And one of the things, the time blocking has really helped me from that aspect, because I can actually look at my week and say, I've already blocked out all my commitments. I actually don't have space for this, but what can I move? Or, and that act of moving is easier to move something and push it back or reprioritize it than just to completely squeeze it in somewhere. So
Yeah.
time blocking's helped me massively with that. Recognizing my practical capacity, managing that, and then that has the uplift on my mental capacity because I'm not stressed. Would you agree?
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. It's knowing that you've got that capacity to move the appointments when you need to, and sort of taking ownership of your own time. And I'm similar to you. I'm a bit of a people pleaser and always have been, and I don't like saying no, and I don't like the confrontation side of saying no. I feel very awkward about it, but like you say, it saves you from overcommitting when you've got this time, I know I need to get this done and there is time in my diary for it. It saves you doing that overcommitment and keeping yourself from becoming burnt out at the end of the day. You're giving yourself that extra sort of buffer, I suppose.
Yeah. I'm curious if you do this as well, Mel. I time block free time.
Hmm.
I call it a buffer. So I have on all my automated diary booking links, I always have buffers built in anyway, but I
Yeah.
build myself buffers um because the school will ring,
Yeah.
or someone will have a panic, or something kicks off, or an opportunity drops in. It's not always like heavy stuff demanding our
Yeah.
attention, is it? So I always make sure I have plenty of like my buffer time in my diary each week. And do you do the same?
Yeah, I kind of call it, when I was working in one of the last companies I worked for, we always just call it focus time. It was like your space to do what you need to do to catch up, and in case of emergency and anything else that drops in, just giving yourself that space so you not don't end up having to sort of stay working late or eat, so it doesn't eat into your weekend, for example, with these kind of things. But yeah, definitely it's worth diarying in like little gaps, hour and a half here and there, just to give yourself that buffer.
Yeah, that focus time, that's a far more professional and efficient title than me calling it a buffer, or a keep free. It comes
Yeah,
up if I
keep
don't
free.
keep free. And then I go, oh, well, what was I going to do with that time? And, sometimes this is one of my great simple pleasures. If you've built in a buffer and actually everything's gone swimmingly and you don't need it, it's like, oh,
Yep.
what can I do?
Yep. It's great. It gives you that extra little, ooh,
It does.
I'll
It
run to the shop and
does.
buy some chocolate.
Oh, I love that. So time blocking, doing it now. I'm curious, that kind of that action.
Yeah, for me, it's more little jobs. If something's going to take me less than 10 minutes, I'm going to do it now because, why not? Gets it out the way, crosses it off the list. I'm a add something to the to do list just so I can cross it off kind of person. So being able, the satisfaction of crossing something off that list is amazing. And it's just even little things, like even in my home life, I've started doing like wash. There's a couple of mugs to be washed up. Just do them now. Don't save them all till later and there's a great big pile. Just get it done. Um, Wipe the sides down in the kitchen, and then you won't be stressing about the fact there's crumbs all over the side. Just get it done. If it's going to be really quick, just do it. Don't just sit scrolling, doom scrolling on your phone, which I have been
Yeah.
guilty of in the past.
Who hasn't? Who hasn't, Mel? But I love that, and it's the little things, isn't it? It's like knowing yourself, I think, is so key in all of this. I'm like you. I will write something on my list just to cross it off. If my list isn't neat, I'll write it again just to, I like that kind of that satisfaction of completing a task regardless of what it is. Like that moves me and that motivates me. but I know not everybody, we're kindred spirits. Of course we
Yeah.
are, Mel, but not everybody works that way. And I think
Yeah.
it's really important to understand who and how you are and how you want to work, and how, what works for you, because and that's what I've really enjoyed about working with so many incredible businesses over the years, actually understanding how different people work and what drives them. And because there's no point in coming along and saying, oh, okay, you want a VA, we're going to do it this way. Here's my Google Sheets and here's my Google Tasks and blah, blah, blah. Because that person, that might not land in the way that they need it to, that might not be their style. And I think our approach at Alchemy is that consultative one, and to honor that everybody's brains and bodies and minds and hearts are so different. Um, do you find, reflecting back on your really strong career as a PA, how do you find different working styles? Is that something you're quite in tune to pick up quite naturally?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a PA for like 25 years plus, and I've worked for a lot of different people in that time. But part of the joy of being a PA is like getting to know people and how they work and getting to understand that. And I've always been quite good at adapting to different people's ways of working. Obviously, when you first take on a new job, you sort of takes you a little while to understand how people work. But I think that's part of the joy of my career, has been like getting to know these different people and learn their ways of working and adapt to it. I must be quite adaptable because I've managed to do that. But you get certain people who are very chaotic, and you have to sort of learn to sort of help to calm them down and help them get a little bit more sort of structured. And then you might work for someone else who's incredibly structured, and then you're sort of trying to make them a little more, not make them, but work with them to help them become more flexible so they're not feeling as restrictive in their work. And I think, as I said, that's part of the joy of this job, is getting to know different people's working styles and working with them to improve things, basically just making their working lives easier. That's our job.
I know, and used to be an executive assistant, and I agree wholeheartedly with what you say there, Mel. For me, it's all about, even now in business, it's all about understanding people and making things better for them, and learning those styles and those preferences. And this is something I've always been hugely passionate and vocal about within my business and with Alchemy VA. It's never just about doing the job. It's never about the admin. It's never about doing the board reports, or it's never about making the slide decks. It is about doing it in a way that is most helpful to that individual at that moment in time, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think I've always taken the view that as a PA, you're working for, not necessarily just working for the person, you're working for the business, and I like to get very involved in the business and help that, feel like I'm making a difference to that business, as opposed to just helping the individual that I'm working for. So, and that is part of the joy of it, is seeing the difference that you can make. It's making that difference to it and improving things.
Definitely. And I know that that drives you, but it is that kind of bigger picture, isn't it? It's like, yes, supporting who you are PA to, but actually you're supporting so much beyond that. You're a natural extension in capacity, in communication, in all these different areas, and being able to allow space and growth across the board. It's brilliant. What did you dislike about being a PA, Mel?
What did I dislike?
Because we have to be balanced, don't we?
Yes, yes. I think sometimes because you're not 100% in control, I think, because you are actually working for somebody. Obviously you have to, what's the word? Align yourself to the company's direction a little bit, I think. And you have to, it's not your business. It's what I'm trying to say, I think.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're a
Yeah.
VA, it is your business. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you're a PA, you're working for another business.
Yeah.
So you're, at the end of the day, you're not 100% in control. Not that I'm saying I'm a control freak or anything, but you have to realize that it's not your business, I think. And also I think things like the lack of flexibility sometimes when you're working in an office. Obviously, you've got to work the hours that they tell you need to work. I know a lot of businesses are flexible these days, but you're sat at your desk from 9 to 5:30 kind of thing. So I think the difference for me with being self-employed is it gives me that flexibility and the work-life balance, with the family, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm immensely grateful that that those dislikes led you to Alchemy and to me and to here and now. And one of the things that used to drive me bonkers when I was an employed assistant was chasing people.
Mm,
Was
yeah.
chasing people. But then I had a little mindset flip. And I made it a bit of a game. And again, it was about like understanding not just my kind of the person that I was the exec that I was supporting, it was understanding their leadership team and actually what were the different learning styles there and what were the different preferences there. And there was I made it a bit of a game because I used to play with different approaches and strategies to try and get different results. Like if a report is due at the same time every week, like there was always someone that wouldn't do it, and it's like, okay, so how are we gonna approach this? And actually I think I'm naturally very curious anyway, but I that allowed me to change that frustration into quite a bit of joy. And actually I still play with a lot of those types of strategies sometimes in my business now as well. I think you've got to bring a little bit of sprinkle a bit of joy where you can, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I know you kind of get people that I've found when I've been employed, you get people who are just a nightmare to like you say for delivering on time, and you do end up having to chase. And then how many ways can I send an email saying, please send me the report or whatever you're waiting for? It's like it can get very, very frustrating. So,
Yeah.
but like
Well,
you
look,
say, it's nice to make it a game.
yeah, and one of the things that actually you saying that sparked in my mind, I used to use again buffers. I'd just set different deadlines for I shouldn't confess this. I'd set different deadlines for different people because it's like, well, if I know they're going to miss the deadline, so if I just give it a day or two
Yeah.
prior, then they're going to miss it and I'm not going to be late.
Yeah, I was thinking it's like if someone's always late for everything, you tell them that the meeting's actually at 2 when it's actually at 3, kind of thing, because you know they're going to be late. It's like that kind of thing, isn't it?
It definitely is. It definitely is. Oh, confessions of an assistant. There could be
Yeah.
loads, couldn't there? But we'll move on. We'll move on. So we're recognizing that actually, change is the only constant. It's cliche, but it's true, right? Are there any other things that you've found maybe particularly helpful as you've taken on an alchemy franchise? Because you started training with us in October, autumn, wasn't it?
Yes, it was autumn.
You started training with us autumn 2025. So particularly thinking of like this more recent period of time when you've been through your launch training and you're kind of developing the foundation and the roots of your franchise, is there anything that's kind of helped you, whether it be with the practical or the mental load, in terms of keeping yourself on track? What's been
Yeah.
helpful?
The first thing I'm going to say is I'm learning patience because, as you know, Susie, because you've been having to listen to me on the phone going, I'm so impatient. But I think when you're launching a business, it's not all going to come at once, and I've had to learn patience this last few months. Like it will happen, and I know it will happen, and it's going to come. I just need to be patient with myself, and yeah, that's something I've 100% learned in the last couple of months. It's been and it will definitely help me in life to be a more patient person, 100%. Also, I'm a big, big, big believer in positivity and a positive mindset. I'm, I don't know if I've mentioned, but I've been through menopause coach training, and as a menopause coach, my big thing is all about positive mindset in menopause, and it's really, really it's what I call the what if up. Instead of thinking what if it all goes wrong, you just think what if it all goes right. So that is something that really, really helps me. And I think to stay patient with it as well is to think what if it all goes right, not what if it's all going to go wrong. Staying positive in trying times is key to keeping yourself sort of aligned, I think, in a way, and keeping everything organized. Is just thinking there is a light at the end of the tunnel. It's all going to be okay. What if it all goes right?
What if it all goes right? I love
Yeah.
that, and I know you've shared that with me before, and I think it's so poignant but so tricky at the same time.
Yeah.
And I will just gently, compassionately challenge you, because I don't have to listen to you. I love listening to you. I love it when you pick up the phone and you're like, ah, and I know those feelings of like frustration and impatience, and they're really really tricky, but actually that's part of life, isn't it? As you say, it's part of business. um I don't think there's anyone out there that hasn't felt that kind of impatience, whether it's be launching a course or a new webinar or a new
Yeah.
offering or launching a new business entirely. That kind of impatience and kind of almost kind of it's a balance of momentum sometimes as well, isn't it? Because you feel
Yeah.
like you're kind of driving at a certain level and things are not coming back to you at that point, and
Hmm.
it's yeah. So actually those two things there are so closely linked, aren't they, in terms of
Yeah.
learning the patience but also learning to be positive and thinking about best case as well as worst case,
Yeah. I
right?
think I've spent a lot of my life as a what if down, like what if it all goes wrong? Like I've really struggled previously with like mental health issues, and anxiety has been a big thing, part of my life. And I think it's only been the last few years where I've actually managed to turn that on its head and think it might not all go wrong, it might all go right. And just having a little bit of patience added to that is perfect. It's definitely helping me over this last sort of 6 months to a year, just to move forward and be confident and trust that everything is going to be okay, because I'm putting the work in and it will work out.
Yeah. And that trust is such a elusive, tricky thing, isn't it? I think, we talk about, this podcast is all about purpose, and we talk about purpose not being something that you tick off your list or you achieve. Like it grows and moves and shifts with you. And I think all of this stuff is true in that sense, isn't it? That trust. You will have days where you wake up and go, oh, okay, what if down?
Yeah.
Because that's default. That's my default. That's
Yeah.
what's happening. But actually being able to course correct and go, actually, what if everything goes right? Like it's beautiful. It's a skill. It's an
Yeah.
art, right?
I think it takes a lot of time, and it is a mindset change. You have to sort of shift yourself. I mean, what I sort of have done over the last sort of year is gratitude. I find gratitude really helps. Just like little little hints. Stand in front of the mirror every morning and find three things you're grateful for. And it sounds a little bit woo, a little bit, woo, woo woo. But it honestly makes a difference. It changes something in your brain. That the fact that if you're grateful for three things every day, gradually over time, you you just have that more positive mindset. It's just weird how it works, but it does.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of gratitude. I did start last year. It fell flat on its face and didn't carry on, but I did start. I had a voice note WhatsApp group with a couple of close friends, and we were collectively sharing our gratitudes each day. There was no structure or anything. It was just like when we saw something that we were grateful for, we shared it amongst us, prompting each other to keep the gratitude up, but it died after a few months.
Yeah.
But I continued it privately. I do gratitude in my own way now, that we were trying to drive a bit of accountability and probably making it more complicated than it needed to be. But again, it's that presence, isn't it, of just
Yeah.
stopping and smelling the roses and noticing those things that sometimes the world
Yeah.
wants us to be
And
too
even
busy
if you're
to
having,
focus
because
on.
everyone has bad days, and even if you're having a bad day, just even if it's just today, I'm grateful for the fact that um, I woke up this morning and the sun was out. Do you know what I mean? Just little things like that. Even if you can always find something to be grateful for, I'm sure. And like you say, it could be something really random. Like I'm grateful that I didn't oversleep this morning, or I'm grateful for this cup of tea.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Just a little thing. It doesn't have to be anything huge, but I I think that having that helps you to keep a positive mindset, which in turn helps you to sort of stay grounded and balanced, and not let things become overwhelming. And I think that can be one of the biggest problems when with work-life balance is you just get overwhelmed with things. So
Yeah. It and it is that mental, emotional overwhelm as well as the practical, isn't it? And actually, if we are regulating ourselves, we're grounded, we're calm, then we can, the capacity can be a lot more stretchy as well, can't it? Because when we're at our best, we can give more or less,
yes,
depending on what's needed.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, Mel, I've loved chatting with you today. I always do. And I suppose some parting thoughts. Help me summarize some of this. We're talking about remaining aligned and connected amongst all of life's demands. And we've covered some really good stuff today. How are we going to summarize this? What should we close the episode with?
Um, I think knowing that life will always throw you curveballs, but you can you can survive them. There's always a way to get to sort of cope with them, I think.
Yeah,
And like through either practical tips or through sort of mindset kind of ways to do it.
yeah. I love that, Mel. Thank you. And it reminds me of something one of my friends many years ago said to me. I was dealing with a lot of what at the time seemed like catastrophic events that I would never recover. But actually, hindsight's a beautiful thing. Looking back, it wasn't that dramatic. So grateful for that perspective sometimes. But she used to say to me, "You can, you get dealt what you can handle. So if you're going through hell, it means you're a badass."
Love that.
And actually, that's it, isn't it? Like life will always throw us curveballs. We have the ability to respond, and actually allowing ourselves some help and support in the process, and actually connection and conversation and talking about it is hugely significant. So, Mel, thank you for being here and
Thank you
going
for
on
having me. Yep.
this purposeful entrepreneurial story. And to you watching, listening, reading, thank you, because our time and energy and focus is so precious. And I, for one, am very grateful that you've spent it with us here today. So, as always, let us know what's landed with you from this episode. I've been Suzy Sanders. I am your ever curious host, and we'll be back with a fresh new episode very soon.